Right now, the Paycheck Protection Program is in limbo. The Small Business Administration said on Thursday it ran out of money within like 2 weeks. Millions of businesses unable to apply for the loans while Congress struggled to reach a deal to replenish the funds. Congress initially allocated $349 billion for the program that was intended to provide loans to businesses with 500 or fewer employees. The money went out quickly. More than 1.4 million loans approved as of Wednesday evening. They can't issue more loans until more money has actually been put forth by Congress. Naturally, Democrats are holding it up. President Trump says we need more funding. These small businesses are keeping people's paychecks going. I mean, one of the conditions, by the way, of actually taking a loan from the Paycheck Protection Program is that you have to continue to pay your employees. If you don't continue to pay, I think it's 90% of your employees at 90% of their salary or something like that, then you can't actually receive a loan. So people are getting the checks that are allowing them to sustain themselves during this time because of this program. Here's Trump saying we need to refill the fund.
We're negotiating with Democrats, and they should frankly approve it quickly. This is a great thing for our country. It's a great thing for small business and for the workers. And we're having a hard time getting them to approve it. I think it's going to happen. It should happen really unanimously. But they're trying to get things, and we're not too happy with what they're trying to get.
Okay, and that's exactly right. If you look at what the Democrats are trying to dump into this program, according to the Wall Street Journal, Pelosi and Minority Leader Chuck Schumer have called for further changes to the program, plus significantly increased funding for disaster grants and loans, which is unrelated, plus additional support for food stamps, which is unrelated, plus collection and publication of demographic data so we can accurately determine the level of impact on underserved communities and communities of color. Because it deeply matters right now how we gather data on racial differences. By the way, if you're looking for correlative differences in how this stuff is affecting people, then there are two cross-cutting factors that matter a hell of a lot more than race: poverty and pre-existing conditions. Right? Poverty, pre-existing conditions, and age are the three things that matter. Okay, I can tell you why the Democrats are trying to break it down this way, because again, they're going back to the well. The suggestion is, and they're making this suggestion fairly obvious, that if Trump mishandles this thing, that he has done so because he is racist. That is what they're going to suggest. They're going to suggest that differentials in treatment are because of underlying racism. They did the same exact bullcrap with George W. Bush after Hurricane Katrina. The suggestion was not that Bush just botched Hurricane Katrina. It's that he botched Hurricane Katrina because he didn't care enough for black people. And they're going to do exactly the same thing here. They're setting up the groundwork for an identity politics move here, and it's disgusting. It really is. I'm fine with you gathering any sort of data you want to gather, but if the implication is that America isn't doing enough for black people because they are black, as opposed to black people are dying at higher rates because black people are more likely to be suffering from pre-existing conditions. And if you want to connect that to historic poverty, you can try. But some of it has to do also with the fact that eating habits matter, that where you live matters, right? Like there's just certain factors that cross-cut race and are much more correlative than race itself. Democrats are trying to boil it down to race, as they always do. As the Wall Street Journal says, identity politics and social pork barrel trump jobs and business solvency. Nancy Pelosi was explaining why she was rejecting small loans to businesses while showing off $24,000 fridges in the background. Listen, I don't begrudge anybody owning a $24,000 fridge. Nancy Pelosi is a very, very wealthy person. She was on with James Corden, and who's broadcasting from home. And again, owning expensive things, you have a right to do it. I'm just wondering why it is that Nancy Pelosi wants to prohibit people from getting the loans they need to sustain their businesses while she stands in front of her fancy fridges.
Speaker Pelosi, what have you found? What are you going to share with us from your home?
Chocolate.
Really?
Chocolate candy.
Oh, wow.
And this is something you can get through the mail.
Okay.
Never run out. Can I show you?
Me. Yeah, absolutely. This is the episode of Cribs I never knew I needed. Oh, my. Wow.
Other people in our family go for some other
beautiful fridge.
flavors,
I'm all for the beautiful fridge, but I'm not going to take it from Nancy Pelosi when she says she doesn't have enough data to back a refill of the small business funding. She said that also. She doesn't have enough data. Because Democrats, one thing we know about Democrats is they need data on how government programs work before they extend them. We know this, right? Like Head Start, if they had all the data, they would just extend that sucker. Or alternatively, Democrats just spend no matter what because they assume the data don't matter, that throwing money at things works, except when the money is being thrown at small business. Here's Nancy Pelosi refusing to throw money at small business at a time when government is actively destroying small businesses.
We, again, for support what we did with the PPP, but we want to make sure that as it gets more money, many more people get access to the credit. there have been some questions asked about the money being committed, but many of us have not received it. So that's all. That's, as I say, back to Chairwoman Lesko saying we want the data.
We want the data. Yeah, I'm sure you want the data. I'm sure it's just that you need rigorous oversight of government spending. This is where Democrats are famous. Rigorous oversight of government spending. When it's government wasting money on absolute bullcrap stupidity, then the Democrats are like all in. But when it comes to we need to help businesses that have been prohibited from doing business, then they're like, we need the data. We need it, hard data right now. Okay, so all of this, because businesses are being shut down, because people are losing their jobs, 22 million Americans out of jobs, protests are breaking out across the country. We're seeing protests in places like Michigan. There's a protest of about 3,000 people in Lansing, Michigan, people jamming the streets around the state capitol, shouting that they want things reopened. In Frankfort, Kentucky, dozens of people shouted through a Capitol building window. In Raleigh, North Carolina, one woman was arrested during a protest that drew more than 100 people. Now, I will say, I think that protesting in favor of reopening is not a bad thing. I think protesting in favor of reopening while standing right next to each other and breathing on them and sharing food is a dumb thing. I think it's a dumb thing. I think it's dumb PR. Like, folks, if you're going to do protests, let me make a recommendation. Socially distance and wear masks during the protest. It takes away the baton the media want to use against you. The media want to suggest that you are out there protesting because you don't care about the impacts of coronavirus and because you don't mind if it spreads. So why don't you socially distance during the protest and tell the media, we don't want to spread this thing, but we need to go back to work, right? It takes the baton right out of their hands. Now, the whole hog rejection of sort of basic scientific limits is very stupid PR, at least on that level. But I certainly understand the emotion that says we need to open this thing up again. So does President Trump, by the way. So Trump yesterday announced that he has a plan for states to open relatively soon. He's doing this the right way. He's saying states are in charge of how this program works, right? States are going to determine exactly how they reopen. He says some states could open relatively soon. And of course, this is right. Not all states are equivalent. No state is New York. New York is New York. No place else is New York.
I think 29 states are in that ball game, not for opening, but I think they'll be able to open relatively soon. I think the remainder are just getting better. Look, New York, New Jersey are having very tough times, and they'll be there. They'll be there at some point, but they're not going to be one of the earlier states. They're going to be later, obviously. But we have a lot of states that, through location, through luck, and also through a lot of talent. We have states through a lot of talent are in a very good position, and they're getting ready to open. And over the next very short period of time, it's going to be up to the governors.
That's true. And President Trump also laid out what he said was his basic plan for reopening yesterday. So let's go through these guidelines, because I think there's a lot here that's good, and I think that there's a lot here that is too optimistic, shall we say. It's setting the standards too high for reopening, because as I have said, in a quick and dirty fashion, the reality is we're all going to end up like Sweden. We're all going to end up saying to young people and to kids and to adults who are healthy, we are going to say to them, go out, live your lives, wear a mask, socially distance, and that's about all we can do, right? And if you're vulnerable and if you're elderly, then you should probably stay in until treatments have been found. That's basically what Sweden has been doing. And you know what? I'm not sure that Sweden is wrong. In fact, I'm fairly certain that Sweden is probably correct. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and share it with all of your friends.